We all hear the term animal neglect, but what does it actually mean when you get right down to it in the eyes of the law? Today, we're going to break down a specific California law that gets past our gut reactions and into what the legal reality is. And you'll see how something as simple as a failure to act can lead to some really serious consequences.
So let me ask you this. When you hear the words animal abuse, what's the first image that pops into your head? For a lot of us, our minds probably jump to something really awful, right? Some kind of active, intentional cruelty. And look, that's a totally understandable starting point. But it's not the whole story. Not even close.
Because the truth is, the vast majority of these animal welfare cases, they don't start with someone being malicious. They begin quietly. Not with a big, deliberate act of harm, but with a simple, profound failure to do something. And that distinction, right there, is everything. It's exactly what we're here to understand.
So, if it's not always about malice, then what is it? Well, legally speaking, animal neglect isn't so much about one single dramatic event. It's more about a pattern, a consistent failure to provide for the most basic, fundamental needs. So, let's actually dig into what that looks like.
We're talking about the real basics here. The legal definition covers things like not having enough food or clean water. It means being left outside without any shelter from brutal heat or freezing rain. It includes not getting vet care for obvious wounds or sickness or parasites. It can be about living in filthy conditions or even just being straight up abandoned when someone moves. These aren't high standards we're talking about. This is the absolute bare minimum for survival.
Now, in California, this stuff isn't just a list of shoulds or best practices. Nope, these examples of neglect are actually written into law. We're talking specifically about Penal Code 597.1, and this is the statute that gives authorities the legal power to step in.
At its heart, PC 597.1 gives the green light to peace officers and animal control to take action. And I want you to pay close attention to the wording here. The law gets triggered not just by what we'd call active cruelty, but when an animal is found to be without proper care and attention. That little phrase, without proper care and attention, it's everything. It's the legal linchpin that totally flips the script. It deliberately moves the focus away from what the owner intended to do and puts it squarely on the animal's actual condition. So the officer showing up isn't asking, did you mean for this to happen? They're asking, is this animal receiving the basic care it needs to survive right now? If the answer is no, the law kicks in.
And we're not just talking about a slap on the wrist ticket here. A violation of this code can be charged as a misdemeanor. That means potential fines, even jail time. And it officially pushes the whole situation into the criminal justice system.
So what happens when someone actually makes a report? Well, that call triggers a very specific and often very rapid legal process. It all starts with an investigation that can quickly, and I mean really quickly, lead to an animal being taken from its home.
Okay, so it kicks off with a welfare check. An officer shows up. If they see what they believe are reasonable grounds to think an animal is in immediate danger, the law gives them the power to seize it right then and there. And the reason it works this way is to get the animal out of a bad situation, like right now, to stop any more suffering. It's only after the animal is in a safe place that the owner is officially notified and told they have a chance for a hearing.
And believe me, this whole process moves fast. The law has these really tight deadlines built right in. After an animal is seized, the authorities have just 48 hours to let the owner know. And from that moment, a new clock starts ticking. The owner then has 14 days to pay for the cost of the animal's care while it's being held.
Okay, so this is where the money part comes in. And it's a big deal. All those costs for seizing the animal, giving it food, shelter, any vet care it needs, that all falls on the owner. And if those costs don't get paid, they can actually become what's called a lien, which is basically a legal claim against the animal itself.
And if you can't pay that lien within that 2-week window, well, the consequences are huge. The animal can legally be considered abandoned. This can mean the owner permanently loses all their rights to their pet, which could then be adopted by a new family or, in the worst-case scenario, even euthanized.
But this isn't just about the heartbreaking possibility of losing a pet. This is where things can get really serious for the owner personally. Let's look at that tipping point, the moment a welfare check escalates into a full-blown criminal case, where an owner is now facing arrest and jail time.
So, for an arrest to happen, authorities have to build a solid case. They'll document the scene with photos, they'll get official assessments from veterinarians on the animal's condition, and they'll take statements. If all that evidence crosses the line into criminal neglect, an arrest can be made. From there, it's the standard booking process at the local jail, and then a court will set a bail amount for their release while they await trial.
Now, for the person who's been arrested, this next step, bail, is often the most stressful and confusing part of the whole ordeal. So let's just take a minute to break down what bail is and how it works in a case like this, because it can be pretty overwhelming.
To put it simply, bail is just a financial guarantee. Think of it this way. It's not a penalty or a fine. It's more like a security deposit you pay to the court to promise that yes, you will show up for all your future court dates. If you do, you get it back.
So you've got two main paths here. The first option is to pay the entire bail amount in cash, directly to the court. As long as you make all your court dates, you get that full amount back at the end of the case. But that can be a huge financial hit for most families. The second, and much more common option, is to use a bail bonds company. You pay them a non-refundable fee, usually around 10% of the total bail, and they guarantee the full amount to the court. It makes getting out of jail much faster and more affordable.
And after all of this, all the laws, the procedures, the financial stakes, we're left with a really tough, really human question. The law, as we've seen, is rightly focused on the animal's immediate well-being. But what happens when the neglect isn't coming from a place of malice, but from an owner's own crisis? Maybe poverty or a sudden illness or disability. This is the real challenge in these cases. Where do we as a society draw the line between a struggling owner who just needs help and a neglectful one who needs to be prosecuted? The law gives us a framework, but the answer, that's rarely simple.